if I think back to sort of what started me along this path, I think back to an organization that I started when I was in grade 10 called Aspire. When I was 16, a friend of mine was hospitalized with anorexia. She eventually passed away from the disease. This was someone who had been a very close friend to me, and sort of in our group of friends. There was about 7 or 8 girls. And by the time she was hospitalized, she had been suffering with the disease for 6 years already. And none of us knew. There had been comments made. There had been hints. But when she would talk about how she hated her body, we would laugh it off. We would say, yeah, don't we all? When she wouldn't come out of the washroom on the nights that we were preparing to go out because she said she looked so ugly, we thought that she just wanted to be complimented. And none of us knew this torment that was going on when she was losing weight. We thought it was a good thing because she always said she felt so bad about her body, and if she could just lose another 10 more pounds, then everything would be okay. And none of us knew. None of us knew that this was going on. And when she was hospitalized, I was thinking, how could someone so close to me be going through this? And none of us had realized it. It's not that we didn't care. We did, but we were so wrapped up in our own lives, so wrapped up in trying to cope with our own everyday insecurities, that this person was literally wasting away in front of us, and none of us had the time to find out why. To talk to her parents, to talk to teachers, to make those inquiries. And as she got worse in the hospital, and as she was put in a feeding tube, and as we realized that she was probably going to die from this disease, I thought, I can't let this happen again. Can't just wait for someone else to slip through the cracks because we've been too busy to notice. So I thought, okay, how can we make sure that we look out for each other? How can we ensure that there is some sort of system in place that makes sure of the fact that we're checking on one another? So I came up with the idea of Aspire, which is a mentorship organization which teamed high school students with women from the community. And the idea is that we would build this network of women supporting girls to make sure that we each had a lot of people looking out for us. But I had the idea, but not the capacity to actually put it into place. I didn't know where to start. I thought, I wanted to start this group, and maybe the way to do it would be to have women come and speak to other girls about their own experiences, to talk about their own insecurities, but also their accomplishments, to talk about how they got to where they are, to give us something to aspire to give us something that we wanted to become. But I didn't know how to contact these women. I didn't know how to network with these individuals. So I didn't want to let go of the idea, so the first woman that I invited to the first meeting of this club idea was our vice principal, which was a totally nerdy thing for me to do. And of course, no one came out. Well, it's not totally fair. I had about 4 girlfriends that I threatened with telling their deepest, darkest secrets if they didn't come out to the first meeting. So I had this meeting, I had this club, and I had sort of no participants. But I wanted to keep on going. And the first few times it was a lesson in embarrassment on my part, because I had the speakers come and nobody that would come listen to them. So the first one was the vice principal. The second one was this woman that owned, this small business owner where I used to buy all my, I grew up in Victoria, so where I used to buy all my Birkenstocks from. The third one was my mom's bank manager. And eventually, slowly, people started trickling in. And they started trickling in because every week I poster the school, every week I'd make announcements, and every week I would talk to individuals and I'd say, listen, there's this idea that I have about women supporting women, and I want you to give it a try, and I want you to give this idea a chance and just come out for this one meeting. And if you don't like it, then you don't ever have to come back again, but please give it a try. And probably out of pity, people would come, but they started liking it. And we started hearing from a wide range of individuals as women started telling their own friends about this club. And eventually started having some of the most famous women in Canada come. Margaret Atwood came to speak to us. Nellie Furtado, who was a friend of mine in Victoria, was sort of a budding songwriter, musician back in the day, and she came out and talked to us about her experiences. Molly Parker, actor, and eventually Harold Shields came by to talk to us, the Pulitzer Prize-winning author. And she became one of the women that had one of the greatest impacts in this club, because as she sat in one of our desks and told her story, she told a story of great love and loss. And she talked about having 5 children and about being 40 before her first book was published, and about having to help her daughter through her mental illness. And that if something like this had existed for her when she was young, then maybe she wouldn't have had to wait for so long to think that she could do it. And she mentored one of our young girls up until Miss Shields died in 2003. And that young girl has just published her first book in 2006. So this idea for a club emerged from one of the saddest incidents that I've ever faced. But it became something more. It became something bigger. It became about students supporting students. It became about students outreaching to the community and saying to the community that you have an obligation to look out for us.